Okay, everybody, sorry for the mix-up. I think we are about ready. So welcome to InHouse-CON. Thank you for your patience. We're going to play you all a little welcome video. Here we go. Okay. I am so sorry to everyone for the mix-up here. Unfortunately, we're having some issues with Deep Roy's microphone. But anyway, for everyone else who's out there and watching, welcome to InHouse-CON. We appreciate you guys being here. So first of all, we have events happening every weekend this May. So every Saturday at this time, we will have events. We've got Star Trek Discovery next weekend. We have Ghostbusters on May 16th. We have Empire versus Rebels, a Star Wars theme on May 23rd. And we have a Superman panel on May 30th. So if you enjoy what you see today, I hope that you'll log on and sign up for those events as well. All of our merchandise is still available online, and hopefully we will have no technical difficulties. I will have to tell everyone we did have a dress rehearsal on Thursday, and we also had a rehearsal with our guests before the event, and everything was working fine. We don't know why Mr. Roy's microphone is not working, so I do apologize. But anyway, we're here and we're live, and I thank everybody for joining us. So what we'll do is we'll get right down to guest introductions. So we're going to play a little video for you here of our first guest. Let me share my screen. Everybody hold on one second. And we're going to bring up the next video. Whoops, and it's not that one, guys. Hold on. Well, it would help if I could find it. All right, we're going to play this one. So here we go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Corey D. Williams to our show. That would be my tech guy's cue to, there he is. Hi, Corey, welcome.
Hey, here I am.
Excellent. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. trying to get all these technical things ironed out here. You know, it's a crazy world out here.
Well, thank you for joining us. Where are you joining us from today, Mr. Williams?
I'm in Atlanta, GA.
Atlanta, Georgia. And
the ATL.
And I take it it's from your home?
Yep.
Excellent. Well,
I'm in what we like to refer to as the Luxe Lounge.
The Luxe Lounge.
Yeah, where all the music happens.
Very cool. Well, you saw it. We prepared that little video for you, and it's some rare footage behind the scenes of Return of the Jedi, and we were watching you rehearse with Mark Hamill and the other cast, and then we saw the actual footage from the movie itself. You've seen that footage before, right, Corey?
Yeah, some of it. It was someone took some 8mm candid footage from, I guess, from outside the set, wasn't it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So very cool. All right. Well,
yeah, I was going, there I am.
There you are. There you are. There you are. And then you run away like a chicken from Luke when he swipes his lightsaber at you.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So we're going to ask Corey to hold on 1 second so that we can bring on our next guest. So let me do another screen share. Everybody hang tight for a moment. Whoops. Well, see, I always do that backwards. Everyone bear with me. Here we go. I have to hit the screen share first, then the video. I always want to play it backwards. Okay, guys, here we go.
Yes, Jedi strength flows from the Force. But beware of the dark side. Once you start down the dark path, forever will it dominate your destiny. Consume you it will, as it did Obi-Wan's apprentice.
Vader, is the dark side stronger?
No. But the easier, more seductive.
I know the good side from the bad.
You will know when you're calm, at peace, passive. The Jedi uses the Force for knowledge and defense, never for attack.
There's something not right. I feel cold.
That place is strong. The dark side of the Force, a domain of evil it is. And you must go.
I operate Jabba's right arm and the jaw of his mouth, and I do the voice at the moment to make the lip sync.
Where's my tooth?
Yes, I am here, Your Worship, for this. Yes? 50,000, no less. The mighty Jabba asked why he must pay 50,000. Because he's holding a thermal jet.
I need a laugh from you, that big mean laugh.
Excellent. All right. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our next guest, Mr. Dave Barclay. Yay! We need like a cheering sound for this on the next show. Hey, Dave, welcome to the show.
Good. Yes. How are you?
Wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing well. Yes, here in Burbank, California, which is quite a long way from where we originally filmed Yoda and Jabba. So.
Yes, so you actually filmed over in London, and all of the Jabba stuff, unlike Corey, who shot here in the United States, the Jabba stuff was all shot in studio in London as well, correct?
Yes, that was all Elstree Studios back in the day. 79 for Yoda and 82. We started. They started building Jabba in the sort of the fall of 81, after everyone wrapped on Dark Crystal. And so yeah, it was a 40 odd years ago. So.
Very cool. Well, thank you for joining us. And I'm going to ask both Corey and Dave to hang tight so we can bring on our next guest.
Very
so
good.
We do another screen share, and we're going to play the next video. Hang tight, guys. Here we go.
Bring those two down here. Well, they're on their way. After I was sure this was a good idea. We surrender.
All right, excellent. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Julius Lafleur. In a few seconds when our tech guy brings him on. They're also still dealing with Mr. Roy's problem. There we go. Hello, Julius. Welcome to the show. No. Yes, we can hear you now. Hi, sir.
Hi, how you doing, Derek?
Excellent. Where are you calling in from today, Julius?
I'm calling from Los Angeles, California.
Excellent. Well, thank you for being with us today. And you see your other friends here, Dave and Corey.
Yes, I see my partners in crime right now.
Very cool. So, Julius, in your intro video, we saw not only just some Jabba Palace stuff, but also some stuff on the Endor Forest. Did you shoot both in the United States and over in the UK? Where did your shoots take place?
We shot in Yuma, Arizona, and Crescent City, California. So it was just two different locations.
Oh, okay, but all here in the United States.
Yes, all here in the United States, yes.
That was more of the outside stuff, because Endor was, most of that was shot outside with the tall trees and stuff, and then the desert, obviously, for the sail barge and stuff.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Okay, very cool. All right, so welcome to the show. So I'm going to let everybody know for the moment, and then we'll move on. I've got my tech guy, Tyler, in the other room with Alberto from Cool Waters on the cell with Deep Roy, and they are trying to fix his audio and video. So for the moment, we are just going to move forward with InHouse-CON with the 3 guests that we have here in place. And I will let everybody also know that at any time you can go down to the bottom of your screen and there is a Q&A button. The Q&A button is different than the chat button. Do not send chats to us. The chats are basically just for fans to be talking to themselves. If you want to communicate with me or the guests, you need to hit the Q&A button. That is where you are able to send your questions directly to the guys, and then we will answer them live right here on screen. So while we're waiting for Deeps to get with us, I'll move on with some predetermined questions that I've already prepared for you guys. And we'll start with Julius. So Julius, can you explain the story of why you were one of the only stuntmen that was willing to dive headfirst into the Sarlacc pit, so you ended up becoming many of the characters that we see in Return of the Jedi because of that, your willingness to do that? Can you share with us a little bit about how that came about?
Well, when I first joined the team of stunt people, I first arrived in Yuma, Arizona, and a bunch of the English stuntmen were hobbling around. A few had broken ankles, broken arms, all during rehearsal. So I saw the guys that were injured and I was like, this must be a dangerous show. So anyway, I was a high fall specialist back in the day. I broke the record for high falls, but I wasn't there for that. I was there to double Lando, and that was my only job at the time. That was what I was called there for. But I kind of looked and watched people practicing, and Glenn Randall was a stunt coordinator, and we were all looking at the Silex pit, and he says, Julius, he says, am I imagining things, but is this really difficult to do? I said, no, I don't think it's that difficult. And he said, do you think you could hit the center of that Silex, the mouth of the pit from here? I said, how many times do you want to do it? Playing a violin, playing a trumpet? You know, I was joking. He said, no, I'm really serious. And I said, yeah, I could do it. There's no problem. So anyway, we had a rehearsal, and then I ran and I dove to the center of the pit, and it was an airbag underneath. And he was happy because at that particular time, the English stunt men were saying that maybe he was a little too dangerous. So that was a big stunt that they needed for the show. But Glenn wanted to make sure, as I would have too, to make sure that it could be done not in front of the whole crew and the director, and then the stunt man get carted off to the hospital, which, you know, that's what they thought would happen. So I did it and successfully, and Glenn came up with the idea of putting me in different wardrobe, different costumes, and just like the Indian falling off a horse in the Westerns, it's the same Indian, but you don't really know, or the cowboy. So we did that process, and I was a little annoyed because I just wanted to double Lando, and it was so hot and the costumes were so uncomfortable. I felt like I was kind of being abused a little bit. But anyway, Glenn was my friend, and I did it anyway. And so that's what happened, from different angles, from the top of the skiff, different positions. I hit the side of the pit and also went in the pit, and everybody was happy.
That is fantastic. And lo and behold, because you were willing to do all those things, you're like 5 characters. And then you also ended up being stormtroopers and biker scouts, as we saw in the video as well, on Endor. And again, we saw some amazing stunts that you did, like head first tosses and rolls. And I'm assuming it all stems from your first visit to the Jabba set in Arizona, right?
Yeah, actually, I was only supposed to work in Arizona, and it went so well until Glenn Randall brought me to Yuma, which, you know, I was making really, in Star Wars, I was making big money at the time. So I said, hey, as long as I could stay on this project, I'm not leaving. So that's when he came up with the stormtrooper crashing into the log, fighting with the Ewoks and all that action. Of course, I was involved in. And at that time, I was much younger and I was pretty durable. So, you know, I did it over and over and over again. And It's just like you said, Derek, I had no idea that this would turn into something that, you know, the different characters, the biker scout, the stormtroopers and all of that just shows that if you have a good attitude, it pays off. So in that case, it did.
Fantastic. Well, we're glad you got to be all those characters, Julius, and be able to share your story. So that's cool. So now let's move on to, I'm going to try and hit each person as we go. So I'll move on to Dave. Since this is Jabba's Palace reunion, let's talk a little bit about Jabba, Dave. As we saw in your intro video, I had some behind the scenes footage mixed with your on camera, you know, footage, the way it actually looked in the film. So can you tell us a little bit about being the chief puppeteer and your role in delivering all the lines to the cast on set, and just fill everybody in on how that worked?
Right, okay. Well, I was working at Jim Henson's on the post-production on Dark Crystal when I got a call from Stuart Freeborn asking me, would I like to be chief puppeteer for Jabba the Hutt? So it's like, yes, I did. I really wanted to. So I checked in with Jim Henson and he said, as long as I got all the work done that was for all the promotion of Dark Crystal, as long as that was all done in advance of time, then I could go off and do Jabba. So I worked like 7-day weeks, like 12-hour, 14-hour days beforehand to get myself clear of all the work from Dark Crystal, and went along to Elstree Studios to start Jabba. We basically got a day's worth of rehearsal, but not with a head on. So Toby and I got into the body and we worked on how our arms would work. I was the right hand and Toby was the left hand of Jabba. And so we were able to do some initial rehearsal work in the shell of the body with the head off, so we could see each other and we could see what Jabba could do. We could find out that Jabba's hands actually couldn't touch. We were too far away from each other. So the whole idea of passing a rope from one hand to another was like, well, this is now quite a challenge because we can't actually do that action. You can't physically get close enough to do it. So we had to find a way that it looked like he was doing that. And also on the fact that we were going to be holding Carrie Fisher with she had like a neck collar to this chain. There was no safety to it. So I was directly pulling on this chain and completely blind to see what I was doing. So that was also a lot of fun. But basically, being Jabba, I had a microphone. Both Toby and I had earpieces because inside Jabba we couldn't hear outside on the set, so we could hear the set from earpieces. And I had a microphone so they could hear my voice. And I spoke Jabba's lines in English, apart from Bo Shuda, which we said in Huttese. All the other lines were in English so that the actors would know what Jabba was saying.
That is so cool. That is so cool. I love it. Well, that's great. And Dave, we know that you did Yoda as well, but I'm going to save that for the next round of questions for you. Let's move on to Corey. So Corey, we're all talking about how you guys got into Return of the Jedi. So it is now your time to share your story on how you became Klaatu. Please share.
Oh, well, I'll try to keep it short. But basically, my father approached me about working as his stand-in in Return of the Jedi in the one scene. And when you work as a stand-in, I don't know if everyone out there knows, but they try to pick someone who looks similar to the actor, size, complexion. The more you look like the person, the better. And they use you to set up camera shots. So, and I don't think I'd ever done it before. I think it was my first time doing it. I did it subsequently. I did it after for him for many years, but he asked me if I wanted to go and work as a stand-in, and I reluctantly agreed. I was really like, it's gonna be like a 2-week shoot in Yuma, Arizona in 110-degree heat. I was like, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, let me think about it, and Steven and I were working on an album at the time because we were looking to get signed to a major label, and they were looking at our music, and so the music was like the most important thing. That's what we were working on so hard, and then I just really didn't want to leave that at the time. Even Star Wars is epic, but it's even more epic now than it was then. But it was definitely something huge, and he convinced me. He said, "Look, if if you guys can continue working on your album, continue working on the music, would you go? And I said, yeah, I mean, I'd have the best of everything. So I went, and we went together, and we worked on our music at night and worked on the set during the day. And, you know, I was mainly working as a stand-in, and met Julius, and Julius thought I was there to take his job as a double, but I really didn't have any stunt doubling experience whatsoever, so there was no chance of that happening. Plus, you know, he was probably one of the greatest people to ever do it. But it was pretty funny. So I was there as a stand-in, and you know, after about, I guess probably about a week or so of work, it was toward the end when they asked me to put the costume on as Klaatu, which Klaatu, I don't think Klaatu even had a particular name then. I mean, I think he got a name when he became a toy, an action figure, but I think it was more like Creature 7-61-9 to, you know, put this head on. So here's what we want you to do. We want you to fight Skywalker in the scene. We need you to run towards him, and you know, here's a couple of things you're supposed to do. And, you know, I learned those things. I had a lot of martial arts training and fitness training and stuff experience at the time. So all that was pretty simple physically. But what I didn't realize was I wasn't going to be able to see or hear anything much. And so they put the head on me, and they said, okay, we want you to run towards Luke. And I was like, where is he? I couldn't. But yeah, that's basically how I ended up as Klaatu for the most part.
That is fantastic. So guys, one of the things that thank you, Corey, very much. I appreciate that. One of the things that we've been telling everybody to help get this event going is that we were going to be doing some exclusive content for our online convention. And I'll be honest with you, I wasn't going to start the exclusives yet, but we have a solution to get deep on, and I need to be away from the computer for a minute to do that. So I'm actually going to bring on our first exclusive, and that is actually going to be Corey. He's a musician, and I have asked Corey if he would play us a little ditty on his bass. So Corey, if you can give me 2 to 3 minutes to get deep up here, we would love for all the fans out there to hear your music. So could you play us a little ditty, please?
Oh, wow. Okay. I was hoping Deep was going to be here to dance, you know?
Oh, I'm sorry. We're working on it. We're working on it. So again, wish we had an applause track, but we're all cheering on for Corey. Corey, let it rip.
Well, just to tell you, we're just working on a little groove. And I set it up so that I could play along with the track a little bit so you guys could hear a little bit of it. Hopefully I'll remember what the heck I'm supposed to play. Hopefully you can hear it. Okay, so let's see if I can get this audio going here. It's just a little sample of it, about 2 minutes maybe. There are other instruments playing as well.
Hey.
Something like that anyway.
Excellent, excellent,
I
excellent.
did forget a good bit of it. I don't really know the song yet, so we just been working on it, recording it, and that's just like one little section of it. But so I'm really still kind of, I wrote the bass line, but I haven't really memorized the whole bass line yet. So
Well, that was fantastic.
Excellent, yeah.
That was fantastic. Okay, so
I like to do it again when Deep shows up so I can get him to dance, maybe, you know? Maybe that might motivate me.
Next time. So that gave us some time. What we're going to do, guys, thank you for everybody's patience. And by the way, for those of you panicking, we know we started late. Don't worry. We're going to go longer than the hour. So everybody hang tight. The solution to Mr. Roy's problem is we're actually going to do FaceTime with him shared on my computer. So first, before we do that though, I'm going to play his welcome video. So please, oops, wait, I have to share my screen first. Sorry. So please, here we go with Deep's welcome video. Hit play.
Like we're being watched.
Wait, but you have... I mean you no harm. I am wondering, why are you here?
I'm looking for someone.
Looking? Found someone you have, I would say. Yes. Now, let's eat. Come. Good food.
R2, stay and watch after the camp.
All right, so I bet a lot of fans out there didn't know that we have two Yodas on our program today, Mr. Barclay as well as Mr. Deep Roy. He was the walking Yoda in Empire Strikes Back. So Deep, welcome to the show. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
And you're calling in from where, Deep?
I'm calling in from California, Los Angeles.
Excellent. Thank you for joining us. So while you and Tyler were working out the technical difficulties, everybody was telling their stories about how they became involved in the Star Wars universe. So could you share with everybody how you got the Yoda role and then a little bit about Droopy McCool?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And regarding Star Wars, they asked me to do Droopy McCall on Empire Strikes Again, which I played Droopy McCall in the band. And then they asked me, how tall am I? And I said to them, 4'2", and they said, you're too tall for walking Yoda. He said, can you walk on your knees? So which I did. I had to wear knee pads, and I did the walking Yoda at the same time in the same movie, which was in 1978. I think that's when we shot in London. That's how the Yoda thing started. Just a walking Yoda.
Excellent. Very cool. And then because of all your hard work, they had you come back for Return of the Jedi, right?
Yes, I did a Return of the Jedi as well, where I played some Ewoks. And I also did Droopy McCall. And I was in R2-D2 more times than Kenny Baker was.
Oh, gee.
There you go. So, but I don't want to say any stories. But then again, at that time, what happened was, God bless Kenny Baker, wherever he is, and he had too much beer to drink, and they couldn't put him in RTD2. They asked me get into RTD2, which I did. It wasn't built for me. Kenny was like 3'7", and I'm 4'2".
Oh, geez.
I'm 4'4". So I had to squeeze in there, which we did. And not only that, RTD2, I also did the Jabba the Hutt, where I was on the tail end of Jabba, and there were 9-10 of us in Jabba the Hutt, and one was operating eyes, some were operating the tail, the hands. So this is how Jabba the Hutt we did.
Amazing. Wow. I don't know. We've got like a massive Jabba's reunion here, guys. I love it. So, and now Deep, you and a few other actors have had the distinct privilege of being in both Star Wars and Star Trek. That is shared by very few actors on our planet. How did you pull that off?
I didn't pull that because they were looking for me, to do Star Trek, and I met J.J. Abrams on the set, and he said to me, "Are you bored?" I said, "Sure." So this is how the Star Trek started, and they wrote me off in the first one, and I was wrapped, and they called me again. My agent called me, so they said they want to do another scene with you. And when I went onto the set, I didn't know that they're going to put me on Starship, which they did. So I became one of the members of the team, and so that's the reason I did the second and the third Star Trek.
Amazing, amazing. Well, the fans.
Not only that, Derek. Let me put I've done Star Trek, Star Wars, Doctor Who, and there's only one actor that did beside me, and that was Simon Pegg.
Who did all three?
Yes.
Look at that. And see, you were Simon Pegg's little sidekick in Star Trek, so you guys are like best buddies in real life and in fake life.
That's it, yes. Real life and fake life, yes.
I love it. I love it.
Talking about Simon Pegg, amazing actor, very funny guy, and very friendly guy. He jokes around, which he did, made everybody laugh with his Scottish accent. But hey, those, I had a great time.
I love it. Fantastic. All right. So now that I have all four of my guests here, and because I can only have Deep on when I'm screen sharing, I actually want to go to some of the Q&As that fans have been sending in. So let me, I can't do that from here? Oh, I can't. I have to have my screen share off. Okay, hold on one second, guys. We're going to stop the screen share, go back to so for those of you who might have tuned in a little bit late, the chat box that you see on the Zoom app, the chat box is only for the fans. The guests and I are not doing the chat box. If you would like to ask one of the guests a question, you need to go over to the other box on your screen, which is labeled Q&A. Those are the questions that we are taking live from our viewing audience. So I'm actually going to go there now. So Kat would like to know, and this is open to anyone who wants to answer, what is your favorite role you've performed and why? So let me go back to my screen share so that we can see Deep as well. Hold on, guys. Here we go. All right, so why don't we start with Dave Barclay, please, with that question.
Oh, very interesting. Yeah, so I guess people won't be able to see me. That's the only thing, Derek, but that's all right. They can probably see me on the small screen on the side.
Oh, you can't? Oh, well, here. I should have. Well, okay, hold on. We're going to stop screen share. Now we can see Dave, so go for it.
Well, I guess it really has to be Yoda. It was my first big sort of character to work on. I know he was created by Frank Oz, Stuart Freeborn. But he's become the most iconic sort of puppet character, I think, probably in cinema history. And I did get to do some actual cheap puppeteering of Yoda on Empire, age 19. So I've every one of the characters that I've performed, I've always loved, ever had great affection for. But I think Yoda really has to be the number one on my list.
And Dave, that was actually one of my, before we move on to the other guests, that was actually going to be one of my questions. I'm going to do a screen share now so we can see a couple behind the scenes shots of you. But can you share with everybody, a lot of fans don't realize this, Frank had to go off to New York, I believe, to do some Sesame Street stuff, and he elected you to be chief puppeteer while he was away. Can you share everybody that what all went down with that?
Yes, well, I got drafted in by accident to do the eyes. It wasn't the original plan. I was working at Stuart Freeborn's makeup lab, but as you can see there, that's me with the beard, holding the controls of Yoda's eyes for performing with Frank. And Frank liked what I did, so he asked me to stay on. And after the one day I was filling in, I was on for the rest of the shoot. So got to the end of the shoot, and we'd run over. It was much harder to film Yoda than anyone had expected. So we were behind schedule, and Frank had a hard out day where he had to actually go off and do Sesame Street. So I thought perhaps they'll wait until Frank's done, we'll come back. But no, they had to get rid of the Dagobah set. So within the next 10 days, so they couldn't wait for him to come back. So they had to shoot. And so Frank had to come up with he had to nominate someone to take over Yoda when he was away. And I thought maybe one of his good Muppet friends, Dave Goles, or one of those guys, but perhaps they were working with him as well. So in the end, he nominated me to take over. I was completely flabbergasted. I was at age 19. And but Frank said, we've been working on the character. You know the intent of the character. You know how he works. And I had been holding Yoda up in between, basically being like Corey as the stand-in for his father. I was being the stand-in for Frank. I was holding Yoda up so they could light him. So I was actually in puppeteering and trying to give the movements and the actions of what Yoda would be doing for the camera guys as they were setting it up. So to give Frank a chance to relax his arm, not all the time, but from a number of shots. So I guess Frank thought, oh, well, yeah, no, he's looking pretty good. So anyway, I suddenly found myself in the position of being chief puppeteer for Yoda, which was quite terrifying and wonderful at the same time.
It is wonderful. And of course, it was a very pivotal scene of when Yoda is talking to Luke on his back. We can see here in this shot, you're down there puppeteering with Mark Hamill. So
yeah, and
what an amazing first job to have.
Amazing first movie job. Yeah, I mean, I've been puppeteering since I was 4. I had my own Punch and Judy set up when I was 7. That was my 7th birthday present, which was a child-sized Punch and Judy theatre and puppets. So yeah, I've been puppeteering, and I've done a lot of live theatre work with my folks and their friends, and I've done some TV work and commercials. So I had experience of puppeteering and puppet making by the time I had the lucky break to meet Stuart Freeborn. So
excellent. So let's go back over to Deep. Deep, the question from Kat was, what was your favorite role?
Well, I love everything I've done, but since Kat asked that question, obviously Charlie and the Chocolate Factory rings the bell because I played so many of them. It all started with 4, and then Tim wanted 7 people to dance with me and wear my mask. That didn't work. They brought in the kids. I said, you can only work with them for 4 hours. And I said to Tim, I'll do it myself. And he said to me, well, we got to give you a camera test. I said, why give me a camera test? And he said to me, I want to see you move, keep a distance between you and you equally. And I said, why is the distance so important? And he said to me, because Oompa Loompas are like a regiment. And when they move precisely in that parade, like it's like a parade to keep the distance. So he gave me a camera test, which I picked up a song. It's not unusual to have fun with anyone, which is Tom Jones' song. And I did 7 going first way, 7 going the other way. and that worked, and that's how I got to play all the Oompa Loompas. And I played 165 individual Oompa Loompas, which is a Guinness record.
Holy
Wow.
cow. Too bad your residual check wasn't for that many acting roles.
Well, but the thing is, actually, to be honest with you guys, I think they really looked after me. I wish I could have got 165 times, but then again, they equally looked after me, and I was well looked after and well paid too.
Very good, very good. All right, we're going to take a pause on Deep here, and I'm going to stop my screen share and go over now to Julius. Obviously, same question from Kat, and I know you've done some acting roles and tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of stunts. So between all of it, which is your favorite?
Well, I performed in a movie called Night Shift. At the time, they were looking for a stuntman to do a 98-foot fall tied to a chair. And this, back in those days, it's circulated through the stunt group, and they were trying to find somebody that would do it. It was Ron Howard. It was his first directing job. And I heard about the part and didn't really give it serious consideration until, I didn't want to go in on a cattle call, which was a ton of people coming, going into the same location. And then, you never know what's going to happen. So when they called me directly, a guy by the name of John Moyo, who was a really big time stunt coordinator who I respected and did a lot of work for, he asked me would I do a 98-foot fall tied to a chair. And I said, well, let me think about it. He said, if you do it, I'll kill you, so you don't have to worry about dying. So anyway, I thought about it, and I went down and met with Ron Howard, and he started asking me a lot of questions. And it really dawned on me after a while, he was asking me these questions to see if I was sane, because everybody had turned it down. And so it was an acting part. It was a part of a pimp. And there was one other guy, Dar Robinson, who was a high fall specialist. He was white, so Ron wanted a black pimp. So I kind of fit the nationality part of it. And so he had me do some acting, some lines. And then he kept questioning me. And at that time, I told him I was a firefighter. And I did both jobs at the time. So he felt if I was a firefighter, I must be kind of sane. So he says, I've never done anything like this. I'm really nervous about it. And I'm convinced now that I feel good about you doing this. So anyway, I went down and Henry Winkler, which I've seen on some of the panels that Derek's had me on. We still talk about it to this day. It was a very memorable stunt where I had to get thrown through a window and fall 98 feet, to an airbag. So that was actually prior to Star Wars. But anyway, that was a big role for me, and it was an acting part, which I never, I'm a stunt double, and that acting was kind of a challenge for me as well. So if you look at the movie, it's the opening of the movie. The first thing you see is a pimp running down the street. I also got hit by a car before I actually did the stunt. So like I said, back in those days, I was pretty durable. And it was a big stunt, which was a challenge. And with the part, all things considered and put together, I think that's one of the most exciting things I've done.
Excellent. All right. Last but not least, Corey.
Yeah, I'm glad you saved me for last, man. Whatever I can tell pale in comparison to what these guys have experienced, man. They have these illustrious careers, in filmmaking. I'm a musician, basically. But, I did bump into some things. What'd you say, Julius?
Buckaroo Banzai, where you're a boxer.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, man. That would be up there in the top, I would have to say. But I auditioned for a lot of roles. I auditioned for the role as Bruce Leroy in Last Dragon, too, man, and almost ended up in that movie by a narrow margin. But it's really funny. But Klaatu, definitely. I mean, come on, he became an action figure, and even though it was just a blip you know, on the screen, and it was just a very small moment in my life, you know, within a 2-week period. It's definitely way up there in terms of characters I've ever done. I wish I'd been able to do more with it. But yeah, in Buckaroo Banzai, I played Electroid in that, and I actually had a couple of lines. But if anybody's ever seen the movie Buckaroo Banzai, it's kind of a cult classic. Peter Weller was the star. He later became RoboCop and a bunch of other movies. And it's a really cool movie because it was so many up and coming sort of actors in the 80s that became Jeff Goldblum. Like, it was all these people that became really, really famous after that movie came out. But yeah, Julius kind of remembers that one because I came to him. They had this scene where they had me dressed up as Electroid, and the Electroid was supposed to, this pod comes down, and the Electroid comes out of the pod and then ends up falling off the pod and into the swamp. And he basically dies from the fall, but there's some other guys that come in and they're out there hunting in the swamp, and they run across him and they have dialogue over him while he's laying in the swamp. And so after I did the fall from the pod into the swamp, I was laying there in the swamp, and they're like going, well, there's not enough water in the swamp. So they bring in a hose, and a fire hose. They start adding more water to the swamp while I'm in there, and I start going into hypothermia. So I start shivering, and they're going, Corey, you can't shiver, you know, because we can see you moving. You're supposed to be dead. I'm like going, yeah, but you know, it's cold in here, you know. So I did the best I could, and I was trying not to think about all the snakes that were probably in that swamp and whatever else was in there with me. So, because I'm down there in the water with just pretty much just my head, you know, and part of my body. And so we got the shot. It was done. Then the next day, you know, they contacted me again. They said, Corey, we got to do the shot over. I mean, it didn't. You were moving, the guys didn't get their dialogue right. You know, like, there's no way I'm getting back in the swamp again. So I told Julius, and Julius came out. He backed me up. He was like, Corey, you need a wetsuit, you know, because he's a professional. So what am I supposed to do? He says, Corey, tell him to get you a wetsuit. So I said, yeah, get me a wetsuit. So they gave me a wetsuit. I put the creature costume on over the wetsuit. I laid down in the swamp, comfy and cozy. They went over their dialogue a million times. And so yeah, those are probably above the most among the most memorable roles I've done.
Oh, that's perfect. So before thank you, Corey. Thank you, everyone. We've got many more questions, but before I get to the next one, which is going to be for Deep, because I'm going to have to share my screen again, there's another little aspect that we're doing of our convention every weekend, and that is my staff and I have created some polls. It's a little program it's a little part of the Zoom program. So I'm going to ask my tech supervisor, Tyler, to throw up the first poll. So everyone watching, and this includes the guests, except for Deep, read your question and choose your answer. That includes the guests. Don't say it out loud. Just click on the one that you like. And then after Deep answers this next question, we're going to get the answers to this poll. So everyone answer the poll. And now that I've answered mine, I'm going to hide mine. And I'm going to bring Deep back up. Let me see here. Deep, before I bring you in, I have to ask the question first because I have to be able to read it. So the Q&A is from someone named Alan. And Alan wants, the question says specifically, Deep, be honest, Star Wars versus Star Trek, which are you a bigger fan of? And now let me bring you on so you can answer. Hold on. And here we go.
Well, the amazing franchises, both of them are. You know, to choose between one and the other one, you're asking me if I like Mercedes or like Rolls-Royce, because they're the giant in the industry. And since he asked me that question, I'll go with Star Wars, even though I've done 3 Star Treks. But I'll go with Star Wars movies because A, they made a lot of money. B, the great franchise, even though Star Trek was created before Star Wars were, and they're both big franchises. And since Alan asked me this question, I'll go with Star Wars because the Force is with the Star Wars.
Excellent. Good answer, Deep. I love it. Thank you. All right, our next question. It looks like Tyler has thrown up the polls. And which creature is your favorite? And it looks like Jabba has won. And oh my goodness, Yachts or and Julius, you got 0 votes. I'm so sorry. But that's okay. We can't all like everyone, right?
Yeah, happens sometimes.
All right, our next question will be from Brandon. And this one is for you, Corey. Were you asked to play Lando in the Solo movie?
No, but you know, a lot of people have asked me over and over again, multiple millions of times, why I wasn't, and I just simply tell them, well, I probably wouldn't have made it past the audition anyway, so that's okay. But you know, it just Donald Glover's cool. You know, he's a great guy, and you know, he's a talented actor, and he's got a big following. It's just a really those are big shoes to step into, man. I mean, you know, that the role as Lando Calrissian was custom made for my father, and it has a lot of his personality in it. And I certainly could have done a really good imitation of my dad, that's for sure. But that's about what I would have been doing. It would have required about 3 acting coaches, maybe, and you know, it's a really. I don't know if I'd want that much weight, really. You know, be honest.
I hear you. I hear you. All right, so we are going to do another exclusive. So let me bring up my, I don't know what I'm doing. Everybody bear with me. I need to bring up my exclusive logo, so I have to share my screen for that. There we go. So this is another exclusive InHouse-CON theme. And guys, just so that you know, we're going to be doing this every week. I've asked all of my actors every week who are joining us to share something with InHouse-CON that has never been shared publicly at a regular convention or a podcast or another, even TV media, news media, anything like that. So every week we are going to have the fortune to be able to see something that no one else has the ability to see, and it's only here on InHouse-CON. So the next thing that we're going to do is Dave Barclay has prepared a little surprise for us. Dave has been working on a movie of his own for ages, but I'm going to let him talk about it. But before that, I would like to share with everyone the video. So if we can ask everyone to be quiet during the presentation, and I'm going to hit play, and I hope you all enjoy it. Here we go.
After 20 years of peace, great evil has returned.
All I need is Jade. I don't have it. Callus, the truth potion. Yes, sir. You idiot. That was the wrong potion.
Sorry, Your Excellence.
Give me that.
Only one can stop him.
Come on, find me a witch.
A young Brython, unaware of her power.
Got it. It's not working. And that's supposed to help?
This is her terrifying journey. As she and her new friends battle to stop the evil magic contained in the Tome of Spells.
At last, I shall live forever.
No!
There we go.
That is fantastic. And then I'm bringing up the poster for everyone to see as well, Dave.
Yeah.
So why don't you start
on my
talking
system,
a little bit over the poster, and then I'll bring you back on live.
Okay, yeah, very good. Yeah, on my system, it's very steppy and I couldn't really hear it. So I hope everyone got to see it properly. So I think I've got really bad, terrible internet here. But anyway, there we go. Yes, this is a film that is based on one of my parents' puppet plays that they wrote when I was 6 years old. And so it's been a personal project using motion capture animation and my puppeteer friends to bring the characters to life. I've created the whole thing myself. The only thing I haven't done is I've not the score has been done by a good friend of mine, John Belfay, and he's scored the whole film. It's really about the only thing I've not done myself, apart from having some of my puppeteer friends do the movement of the characters and also the voices. So it's an 11-year project that's pretty much finished now. I've just got to do the final color timing, the color correction and everything. It's getting pretty close now. So and then try and see if I can get it out there somehow. So.
Well, I personally wish you the best of luck, Dave. I mean, I've been hearing about the project for a while, and I know we got to see a little snippet of it at your house when you threw a party, and it's incredible. So I personally wish you all the luck with it. I hope when it is out that all of the viewers will go and see it, and I hope your fellow castmates here will go and see it as well.
Well, I have to come along to the premiere, yeah, absolutely, in Los Angeles.
all the best, Dave.
Yeah. Thanks, Barry.
That's fantastic. So let me go back to the questions from the fans. We have a question from Craig. Hello from Springfield, Illinois. Thank you all so much for being here. Mr. Barkley, I'm enjoying seeing more handmade puppets in movies and TV shows now, such as the new Dark Crystal and The Rise of Skywalker. What are your thoughts of the return to this classic, amazing art form?
Well, I have to say I'm delighted. I mean, being a second generation puppeteer and joining my folks puppeteering from about the age of 4, it's in my blood. I mean, puppeteering is. I mean, I can see that the animation, motion capture, Pixar, it's all tools for bringing characters to life. But for me, my favorite of all of them are hand puppets, actual physical hand puppets, and animatronics, that lovely mix of both where you can use the ability of the hands to bring the heads to life and then really great mechanisms to add the detail. So yeah, it's great to see it. It was I was the very first British puppet maker on the original Dark Crystal 40 years ago, and so got to work on the Skeksis, Aughra, the Urskeks for the final shows, and actually did research and development for the Mystics, the Land Leapers, and Inside the Gartham. So yeah, I got to be involved quite a lot at the age of 20.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right, let's do a question now for Julius. Julius, this is actually one that I've prepared, and it's a 2-part question. First of all, I mean, you're an amazing stunt man, and you've been in some unbelievably big movies, you know, things like Die Hard, but also your resume is filled with movies that some fans may not realize require stunts or stunts that might be dangerous, things like comedies like Police Academy or Fast Times at Ridgemont High. So my first part of the question is, do you treat every film the same when you're prepping for your stunts, even though it's not a big action movie? And then the last part of the question is, have you suffered any major injuries while on any set?
Okay. Usually in stunts, you know, I've done so many movies, as you mentioned. I worked on Star Trek and also Ghostbusters. Stuntmen have a ability to work on a lot of different films. You know, we move around a lot, and usually we get hurt on the small stunts, the ones that you just figure is going to be okay. You overlook. You put your pads on, not all the way. And in some cases, you don't put a back pad or elbow pad on because you figure you got it made. And that's the one you get hurt on. You know, of course, the big stunts like big high falls and the car hits and in those type of stunts. You take extra precaution. You're totally focused. You take nothing for granted. And in doing so, usually it turns out okay. And for me, I've done over 200 and some movies, and still walking around and able to talk about it. But the only time I really got hurt was on Star Wars. I was doubling Lando over the Silex pit. I was fighting this monster, and the skiff kind of tilted to the side. At that time, I think Corey was doubling Billy at the time. We both kind of shared in that responsibility. But I grabbed onto the monster. My cable snapped on my harness. We both went down, fell on the side of the pit. I landed on top of him. The guy, I forget the stunt man's name, but I broke his arm and his shoulder, and I ripped my hand open, and it was kind of horrific. Corey remembers seeing that. I felt tingling in my toes, and sensations that I never felt before. They took me to the hospital, and as I told Corey, I was making so much money on Star Wars, I didn't want to go home. So with my hand ripped open, I was able to finish the film and do all the stunts that you saw as stormtroopers, biker scouts, and all of that. But that's the only movie that I've ever been hurt on.
Were you in pain at all after that?
Well, stunt, I work in pain a lot. You know what I mean? Bumps and bruises. You just kind of keep it going like a football player or any other activity where you sustain, a lot of intense pounding. Car hits. Only way you do a car hit is get hit by the car. I've done a lot of those. And, rolling out of a car, you're rolling out of a car. Who does that every day? So
Julius asked me to do a car hit one time. He asked me if I wanted to do a car hit, and I said, I don't think so, Julius. And then he did the car hit.
Actually, Billy had a meeting, kind of a little sidebar with me, and told me to stop encouraging Corey to do stunts. Because Corey was actually starting to, he was physical, and after Star Wars, I said, I can hook this guy up. But Billy really didn't want him to go in that direction. But like I said, I've done fire burns. I've won stunt awards. I've done a lot of stunts, and I've really been fortunate in not being banged up or, walking with a limp continually. But on that movie, Corey was there. A lot of people got hurt on Star Wars.
That's funny, Julius, that you talk about that scene specifically with the skiff, because this same question has been asked of Billy D. Williams at conventions, and I'm always with him, so I happen to know the answer, and I want to share it with everybody because it actually coincides with exactly what you're talking about. It was the same scene when they were doing his close-ups, and the Sarlacc pit goes to grab for his leg, and Han shoots at it. A squib went off too close to his foot, and it actually hurt his foot. Like it hurt him. And Harrison was so caught up in acting that when Billy was crying, I'm hurt, I'm hurt, I'm hurt, Harrison wasn't focusing at first, and he just thought he was acting. And then finally he broke his concentration, and Harrison had to say, okay, stop, Billy's hurt. And it's all, I don't know, who was in charge of stunts that day? I hope it wasn't you.
No, that was Glenn Randall, but that's really not a stunt thing. It's more special effects.
Right.
But another thing happened that a lot of people don't know about, and Corey knows the story. We were suspended on the arm that would be taken out in post-production later. But at that particular time, speaking of sparks, a lot of sparks were happening and shooting was going on. My hair caught fire and Chewbacca was freaking burning. He was burning and flaming out, and my hair was on fire. And I'm trying to pat my hair out. I had a bunch of product in it at the time. And we're just helpless. We're both burning at that time. And fortunately, you know, they got to Chewbacca in time, but that could have really been a disaster. Dan Zormeyer was the double. And I'm looking at him burning and he's looking at me burning. And nobody could get to us.
Yeah.
So he patted himself out and I patted myself out, but that could have really gone wrong because we had no help. But at that time, a boiler burst. I mean, you'd be on the set, Corey, remember this. It was like a death scream. Ah, and everybody's frozen, looking in the direction of the scream. And it was like everybody was getting hurt on that show, and including Billy. And
incredible.
And we just, you know, there was people saying the show was cursed and all kind of thing. Like I said, when I first got there, 50% of the stunt people were on crutches. And it was just a very demanding show, a lot of technology that had never been done before. Like Corey said, you're fighting or running towards something that's not there. It was all brand new. I, you know, worked on a lot of films, and this one was very much different. And the one scene where I did get hurt, I mean, the shiv broke. I mean, these were things that hadn't been done before. And Glenn was a very inventive stunt coordinator. He did Raiders of the Lost Ark. He was the biggest stunt coordinator in the business at that time. And he was very professional, very careful about his rigging and everything. And when you do stunts, you don't know what's going to happen because there's so many elements involved. You got special effects, you got wardrobe. You work with all the departments. And if one thing goes wrong, you know, that's what happened to us. And at that time, I couldn't believe it was happening to me, that I actually got hurt. My head hit the side of the pit. And I mean, it's just like slow-mo. It was like a dream. And the next thing I know, they were taking me to the hospital.
Incredible.
And, Billy's looking at me, Corey's looking at me, everybody's concerned. And Paul Weston is the stunt man's name. He did the James Bond series. Like I said, he broke his arm and his shoulder. And I think he broke his leg too, but
yeah, his leg, yeah.
Had I not landed on him, that would have been me. So it's a dangerous profession, and a lot of pain and suffering went into Return of the Jedi. And a lot of people got hurt, but we made it through the other side, and it was probably the biggest and most exciting film I'd ever been on, because I made friends during that shoot, Corey, Billy, and several other people. And the English stuntmen were at odds before. It was like a competition. They didn't like us, we didn't like them. But at the end of the day, we were all stuntmen, you know, striving towards the same goal. And we started working together, and we're friends until this day. Tracy Edmonds, Princess Leia, Stubble, we all, everybody was a family. It was wonderful.
Incredible. Well, thank you for all your hard work on making Return of the Jedi amazing with, I mean, everybody that's here, but Julius, that's certainly have pain and suffering stories to make a project. So pain is temporary, film is forever. A famous director said that. So thanks for sticking it out. So I'm going to switch over to Deep, which means I'm going to switch my screen over to share, and I'm going to cue Dave. Dave, while we're sharing my screen, I'm going to ask Tyler, I hope you're paying attention. I want Tyler to take your video off screen, and I want you to prep our special guest. That's going to be another in-house exclusive while we're talking to Deep. So Tyler, if you could get rid of Dave, and we're going to take a question for Deep. So Deep, Kat would like to know the following. You've performed in many costumes and makeup. Were there any that were particularly difficult as far as movement or temperature? Now, before you answer, let me share the screen so we can see you. Hold on one second. And where are you? Oh, here you are. All right, Deep, go ahead for Kat.
All right, Kat, great question. Difficult? Yes, every costume is difficult to wear, and then to perform in the costume and make things live. One thing I say, Droopy McCall was the hardest one because this is Star Wars. Empire Strikes Again, and playing the flute in the band. It was so hot in that costume. playing the clarinet. I can hardly see. The other one was Yoda thing. I couldn't even see, not much, and it was very hot. And once they put that thing on, you got to stay. Apart from that, Star Trek, when I played Kinzer. It's very hot makeup because I stayed in that for like 14 hours a day. You cannot eat. All you got to do is, this is the last thing they think about, how the actor is going to eat. I didn't eat, much, but I was on a liquid diet. And those are the two things that are very hard to do the costume work and make it live, because you got to doubly work hard, especially playing Kinzer. I hope I answered your question.
I think so. And here, I have a question for you, Deep, and it's a little off of filmmaking, but when I was doing my research for everybody's questions, I read online, and I want to know if this is true, that you're a descendant of India's Maharaja. I don't know how to pronounce the name, Vinpal or Vinpal. Is this true?
It is actually. That's 32 generations back with Maharaja Vinipal. And that came from Afghanistan to India. So in other words, I'm an Afghan. This is 32 generations back. And people always ask me, in an interview that I did for Riz Khan, who works for International, Jazeera International. He asked me, so you got a blue blood? I said, no, last time I checked, it was red. So there you go. Yes, I'm a descendant of Maharaja Vinipal. This is 32 generations back.
Wow, that's incredible. Absolutely incredible. So if you weren't an actor, would you be in India eating grapes and being fanned by sexy women?
I wouldn't be doing that. I was born in Africa, but I'll be around in jungle somewhere and drinking some crazy stuff if I wasn't in the movies. But then again, my dad always wanted me to be an accountant. So this is what he wanted me to do. So I was studying for accountancy, and I kept failing in taxation. I'll pass taxation, and I'll fail in company law. And that's what my dad wanted to be, because he was a pretty successful business person in Africa, Nairobi, Kenya, where I was born. And I turned around and I gave up my studies, and I said to myself, I want to join drama school. And when I joined drama school, I quit that after 6 months because I thought, I ain't learning anything from this. And then my dad said, now what? I said, I want to be a comedian. He said to me, it's a joke. So this is how I started in stand-up comedy.
Oh, wow.
I did it like 4 or 5 years in London, and then I met an agent. And my first feature was with Peter Sellers, New Avengers. And actually, he got me the first television they did, which I did New Avengers. And I did Doctor Who, then I did the first feature with Pink Panther. This is how it all started.
Wow, that's incredible. What, so stand-up, what kind of stand-up, were you more like a real-life comedy? Like
I did stand-up because I played upon my size. I did a double act and all of that, and then I thought to myself, after 5 years, I learned, are people laughing with me or are they laughing at me? Which is two different things. Okay, I made money, but then again, I had a lot of fun. And would I do it again? Of course I would. I'm going to do it the other way around. I've got a concept which I want to do, and do a comedy like stand-up comedy if I'm 6'5".
Fantastic. I love it. Oh, man, I'm actually learning stuff about my clients during this event. So this is I'm about as big as a fan as anyone watching right now. So this is fantastic. All right, Deep, thank you. We're going to move on now to our next exclusive. So let me put up our little icon here. So I am proud to announce, hopefully Mr. Barclay is ready, but this is going to be something that he's going to show us. And well, why don't we just do this? Let's get him on, and then everyone will see what it is, and then we'll explain later how you might be able to see him in person. So Tyler, can you please bring on Mr. Barclay and guest?
Oh yes, it's asked me to start my video. Yep, okay. Okay, now.
That is fantastic. Wait, I have to, how do I make my screen bigger? I want to see him bigger. Oh my God. Oh, that is incredible. So Dave, tell us, obviously fans can see it, but for those of us who don't quite get it, tell us exactly what we're looking at here.
Well, this is my recreation of Stuart Freeborn's Yoda. I've got mechanisms inside. I'm controlling the whole thing just with my right hand. So my middle finger's operating the eyes left and right and looking up if he needs to. That's my middle finger. And also by dropping it down, his eyes close. Index finger is his upper lip, thumb is the lower, which is typical stuff. I've got eyebrows and ears, although I've actually just been working on him. So I thought everyone might be interested to see that basically that's the back of the inside of his head. Like no one will ever see that. So I thought I wouldn't glue it up today. And that's how Yoda was taken apart on the movies. He was actually taken apart so you could work inside without having to unglue the face. So when he went wrong, he was always opened up from the back. So, but yes, there we go. Full foam latex. I did the original sculpt, all the molds, I made the eyes, made all the mechanisms. So
Dave, this is just because I know a little bit of the history because you've shared it with me, but so that fans understand. Every time we've seen Yoda on film, he's been basically slightly different. But
yeah.
the particular puppet that you have today is an exact duplicate of the one used in The Empire Strikes Back, because you had, from when you worked on it 40 years ago, you had the original mold to the head, correct?
Yes, that's the one that's right behind you as well. It's taking that as a reference. I've resculpted with more detail, and obviously he's got all his hair and everything. So it's the same form, but yes, it's from Empire, and so it's the Empire Yoda that was used primarily on Empire. So, and I just wanted to celebrate Stuart Freeborn and Empire year because it's 40 years since Empire was released, and of course we're all stuck inside. So I was hoping to be able to let Yoda out and see different people and introduce them so they could actually see what he looked like. But so maybe a bit later.
Now you can tell us a little bit. You said something when you guys were doing it, the lips didn't meet, and you personally fixed Yoda's lips on Empire. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, the very first job that I got on the very first day when I arrived. If you look at some of the posters, there's Yoda with his mouth open, and that's how he was sculpted. But Frank couldn't get the lips to close when he was talking. So my job was to sculpt little tiny prosthetics, different types that would be glued onto the original Yoda skin to extend his lip lower, so that then the mouth would comfortably close. And that's where that sort of like mushing comes from. You can actually push it up with using your thumb. And so yeah, that was my first job, to sculpt the top lip. So a little tiny bit of sculpting in the Yoda history. So
wow, well that is incredible. I am so glad that you shared with us. And what I was alluding to before we brought you on, and now we will tell people, is that when COVID-19 and this whole coronavirus mess is over, which we all hope is sooner than later, Dave is going to be going to a few of the fan conventions out there, and Yoda is going to be coming with him. So fans who are going to meet Dave at a convention will actually be able to get to see Yoda, and you'll be able to purchase a special photo op with yourself, Dave, and Yoda all together. This is something that's exclusive to Cool Waters Productions because Dave is our client. So that is something that the introduction is here at InHouse-CON, but when we actually get back out onto the road, Cool Waters and Mr. Barclay are pleased to announce that Yoda will be traveling with him to some conventions, and you'll be able to take a photo with him and see him up close. And if Dave is not booked at one of the conventions you're going to, do me a favor, guys. Don't email me and my staff. I get so many emails from fans going, can you please bring such and such to so-and-so or whatever. It doesn't work that way. Cool Waters is a management company that works with promoters who own the conventions. The promoters have to contact us, and they are the ones that bring us in. So as a fan, what you need to do is you need to contact your local promoter and tell them this is the guests that we'd like to see. And then the more requests they get, promoters see a demand for it. So if you all want to meet Yoda and Dave, contact your local promoter. As a matter of fact, if you would like to meet any of our guests today at a convention, Corey, Julius, and Deep, same thing. Let your local promoters know that you want to see them. So there you go. I think Yoda is talking for me. I love that. Oh, Dave, that is fantastic. Thank you for sharing. That is unbelievable.
My pleasure. Yeah.
So
like he is.
Let's go to another poll. So everyone can join in, except again for Deep because he's on FaceTime. But all of our guest panelists and all of the fans watching can join in. Tyler will flash that poll up now. Should Jabba the Hutt have lived? Yes, absolutely. No way, he deserved it. So everyone take a moment to do that. While we're waiting for the results, Tyler, don't flash the answers yet. I'm going to go back to our Q&A. So let's get a question here. Does anyone, whether it's Deep, Corey, Julius, or Dave, and Deep, if you have an answer to this, let me know because I have to activate my screen for you. This is from Kat. She wants to know if any of you have a funny or hilarious moment from shooting. And maybe I'll add to that by saying if it wasn't a blooper, maybe did any of you play a practical joke on one another? So we're going to answer that live on air. What we'll do is we'll start with Corey, Julius, and Dave, and then I'll switch over to Deep. So Deep, you've got a few moments to think about it. So Corey, let's start with you.
Well, I saw that question and I started thinking, there was a lot of fun moments. I mean, you get real creative when you're sitting in a trailer out in the middle of the desert for 10 and 12 and 14 hours a day. You know, and half the time you're waiting for sandstorms to blow over because, you know, sand and cameras don't really mix well. So they have to cover everything up, wait for the stuff to blow over. So you got all this sort of downtime. There's a lot of downtime because the hotel is so far away from the set that we had to drive out to every day that you couldn't go back to the hotel and chill and bring you back. So we all had to sit out there. But I remember one day we were just really extremely bored, and then Stephen and I happened to have this Polaroid camera, which they didn't really like you having cameras on the set, but you know, you got away with a few things. My dad took pictures. They confiscated his film and developed all of it and gave it back to him. But so we had this Polaroid camera, and every now and then we'd get a little pic. And Mark was in his trailer resting, and we knocked on his door. And when he opened the door, he was standing there in his bathrobe in his underwear, basically, and we just jumped in there with him and took a photo. You know? And he was really a good sport about it. I mean, like, he just laughed, we laughed. It was really funny, so we still have that picture. And, you know, so the moment was captured. And then later on, I found out that there was some sort of, I don't know if you know about it, Derek, but some sort of prank that was going on between he and Carrie or something, because the road really didn't belong to him. It belonged to her.
Oh yeah, I remember him telling me something about that. Yeah, I don't remember the whole story. I'll save that for Billy to tell at a convention.
Right. But yeah, that was one of my favorite funny moments, I guess, on that set.
Excellent. All right, so Dave, how about you?
Well, probably the most amount of fun and craziness we actually had on Dark Crystal. I remember with Brian, no, it was John Henson, which is Jim Henson's younger son. He, with Graham Galvin, who was a puppet maker in the room next to us, myself and Lyle Conway, we had a water fight. And we literally, it ended up with the corridors literally flooded. We were putting hoses onto the taps and squirting everyone, carrying great big buckets of water. It's in the middle of the summer. It was just insane. So yeah, we used to do lots of crazy things like that. Jedi for me was very, very straight-laced for the bulk of it, because it was complicated, difficult, and we didn't get much chance to sort of interact with other people. Toby and I were just up inside Jabba all the time, so we were kind of separate from the insanity that was going on the actual floor. But yeah, no, it's always good fun to sort of have those moments of relief when it's crazy, because it's usually so concentrated, so professional, and every once in a while people go nuts. So yeah.
Excellent. All right, Julius, so all the injuries aside, tell us something fun or a practical joke played on someone. What have you got for us?
Well, right before I did Star Wars, I did a film called Fast Times at Ridgemont High. And I went to work and was sitting in my trailer, and I see this guy throwing the football up in the air, catching it, just tossing it up and catching it. And so, you know, we looked at each other. You figure I was in the trailer, so I must have been somebody important to the show. So he finally came over and we started talking a little bit, and he said, "Hey," he says, "What do you do?" I said, "Well, I do stunts." So what do you do? He says, "I'm an actor." I said, "Oh, okay, yeah, he's an actor." And anyway, he's throwing the football up. He says, "You know what?" He said, "I'm trying to make a decision." I said, "What decision are you trying to make?" He says, "Well, I'm trying to decide whether to continue my education or to just do this acting thing." And he says, "You know, what do you think?" I said, "Well," he says, "his first film." I said, "Well, I think you should go and do the education thing and forget about the acting, because acting is so hard. You know, it's a slim chance that people really make the kind of money, fortune, and fame that, you know, that they think they are." I said, "Just forget about this and just go back to school." Well, the guy's name is Forrest Whitaker. I worked with him on Aretha Franklin's story. And every time we see each other, we start laughing, because here he's gone on to win Academy Awards, the Last King of Scotland, and, you know, all of that. But yeah, I'm telling him, but it's really ironic. When I talked to him on the set of the Aretha Franklin story, he said, "I still think about that. I still wish, you know, think that maybe I should have gone deeper into my education." But see, he's on the other side, you know, the acting, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But I thought that was kind of funny. But every time we see each other, and we've seen each other on several projects, he just started laughing, because we go back to that moment when I told him to forget about the acting.
Awesome. All right, and now we're going to go over to Deep. Let me switch my screen on, guys. Hold on. And there's Deep. Okay, Deep.
The first feature I ever did was with Peter Sellers. He said to me, "Let's play a joke on Blake Edwards, the director." And he said only two people will know: the camera operator and the first AD. That's about it. I said to him, "This is my first feature. They'll fire me if I did a joke, you know." And he said, "Don't worry, if they fire you, I'll come with you." This is Peter Sellers saying that to me. I said, okay. So the joke was that we were in Germany, outer skirts of Munich. We were filming there, and in a castle where Peter Sellers goes round and he sticks up his head into the garbage can because he wants to go into the castle. And he said to me, "The joke is this: we're going to put you in the garbage can. And when I come round into the can, your head is going to come up." I said, okay. So they put me into the garbage can. I was there for like 15, 20 minutes. I kept asking him, "What's happening, man?" Because I'm getting, hot and all that. So he said to me, no, it'll be another 5 minutes. And he's talking, and Blake said to Peter, what are you talking about? He said, no, I'm just rehearsing my lines. So when he said action, he comes around the castle and when he comes to the garbage can, sticks his head in, and my head comes up. And Blake Edwards was absolutely shocked, and he printed that. He was laughing so hard. And he said to me, I wish I could use this outtake. So my first feature, that was the joke that Peter Sellers played on Blake Edwards.
That is fantastic. Wow. So Deep, while I have you, we'll do another InHouse-CON exclusive. I believe you had emailed me last week that you might show us a couple of things from your personal collection at home. So do you have a couple of pieces you'd like to share with the fans that are watching?
Sure. And here it is. This is the one that I have. As you can see, this is signed by Tim Burton. And he brought this from Tokyo. He said to me, this is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. They are all like figurines of the Oompa Loompas. And it's signed by Tim Burton, Love, Deep Roy. And this is very dear heart to me because he brought it from Tokyo to London and he gave me this thing. And I asked him to sign it and he did. And then another thing that I have is this figurine that gave me Star Trek.
That is great.
Which is another Lego. And those were the Lego figurines too. So I got 2 Lego figurines, one from Star Trek and one from the Oompa Loompas. So I've got other stuff here, Tim, I've got these cards from Charlie and on the Chocolate Factory.
Oh, yeah.
And all these things. You can see them. And so this is some of the stuff. I've got all other stuff too, but maybe we'll do it next time.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
But then again, there's another stuff that a fan gave me of which touched me a lot. She was only 16 years old girl, and she gave me this thing, and I couldn't believe it.
Oh, wow, look at that.
She drew that, and she was in tears when she saw me, and I said to her, she didn't have money, so I gave her a few signed autographs of mine and I have a photograph taken with her. It was so cute of her to do this for me. Yoda.
No, that is fantastic.
So there you go. I think I've covered my bases: Star Wars, Star Trek, and Charlie.
You have, absolutely. Oh, and you know what? I actually had an exclusive that I was going to share with everybody, and it's in my office. So let me go grab it. I'm going to do a stop. I'm going to stop the screen share, and I'm going to have Tyler give us the results to the poll that we just did while I go grab my exclusive. So Tyler, throw up the results. And then what we can do is let's do another, after we see the results, let's do another poll. So Tyler, go for it. So there's your results.
Jabba the Hutt.
Jabba, it says no way, he deserved it. So 70%, everyone said he deserved to die. Oh, sorry guys. All right. So Tyler, throw up the next poll.
Oh, shoot.
I think he should have lived, because then I could have got some more work on another one. But then...
All right, so we have, where did you see Return of the Jedi? Oh, this is a personal one from me. I love it. So did you see Return of the Jedi in a movie theater, in a drive-in theater, for those of you who know what that is, VHS or Laserdisc, first run TV release, DVD, or never? So somebody...
Never.
Corey. So everybody answer that question. And while we're doing that, I will share my exclusive, but I'll give you the little story behind it first. Just something, I thought it was cool for the fans out there that are diehard fans. So a lot of people know that one of our clients was actress Carrie Fisher, and she was actually one of my dear friends as well, and I miss her tremendously. And Cool Waters was actually the first company to bring her to Japan to meet her fans out in Japan. And when we were there, they had just released these little figurines and from Kubrick. So it's the same company of Deep's little Star Trek figure. And I love rare things like that. So I begged the promoter to find me one. And they said, well, they're sold out everywhere, but we do have one to give to Miss Fisher. So they gave it to Carrie at the table. And when she, later at the day when she was done signing, I kind of made a comment of how I kind of wanted to get one. And she felt bad for me. Either she felt bad for me or well, I don't want to say she didn't care because it was a gift, but I think it was more she felt bad for me. So she just went, you know what? You can have the damn thing. And this is what makes it so special. She signed it for me, and I'm going to show it to everybody, but I'm going to read it to everyone. And just so that you know, most fans know this. In all the years that Carrie appeared at a convention, Carrie very rarely ever signed Princess Leia. She usually would sign PLO or Mrs. Solo or something like that. So when she said she was going to give it to me, I said, I don't want to take it because it was a gift for you. And she goes, no, I insist you take it. And I told her, the only way that I will take it is if you sign something extra special, and it has to include Leia's name. So this is what she wrote. And I'm sorry if there's any children listening, and then I'll show you guys. So she went, that's fine. She grabbed the figure from me and she wrote, you fucker, who loves you? Guess again, Leia Organa-san, Princess Leia, Carrie Fisher. And here is the figure that she signed for me. So I hope everybody can see it. It holds a special place in my office, in my display case. So the only people that ever get to see this, except for right now, is if you happen to be a rare person who gets to come to our home office. So that's my little exclusive for everybody. So yay. Okay, Tyler, do we have the results to that last poll? Oh, we do. Look at that. Okay, so it looks like the majority of everybody saw it in the movie theater. I am so happy that nobody said never. I am curious for our client, our guests that are here, what did you actually answer? And I'm assuming you all saw it either at the premiere or in the theater, but correct me if I'm wrong. Corey, where did you see it? What was your answer?
Well, I said the theater because that's the closest to the real answer. I actually went to a screening of it with my father before they actually released it. So they had a theater on the studio lot, and cast and crew members all came to watch the film. Yeah.
Cast and crew screenings, yes.
Yeah, I was blown away, yeah.
Very cool. Dave, where did you see it?
Same thing, cast and crew screening in London.
Cast and crew screening in London. Julius, what about you?
I saw it at the cast and crew screening as well.
Cast and crew. And Deep, I'm going to share my screen. Where did you see it for the first time?
London, cast and crew.
Cast and crew. So a very special screening for all of you guys. And Deep, I'll start this question with you and then I'll switch back to the guys. After you got to see it in the cast and crew screening, did you also, maybe when it was released in theaters, did you actually go to the theater yourself with your family and see it with real fans?
No, I didn't actually.
You did not. Okay. We won't tell anybody. That'll just be another exclusive for InHouse-CON.
Exactly, but I just saw it once. I thought that's good enough for me because the family went and saw on their own, and which is they all live in London.
Okay.
So they all saw it in London. So because I hardly go to the movies.
Okay.
Personally.
All right, so you're forgiven then. All right, how about the rest of our panelists? Did you guys see it in the real theater with like real moviegoers after your screening? Corey. Julius, go ahead. You spoke. Go ahead, Julius.
No, I didn't see it. I saw it in the screening, and that was kind of it.
Corey.
I think I may have. I can't really remember exactly, but I do know that once it was released on VHS, I watched it so many times that I knew all the dialogue, most of the characters.
And Dave, what about you?
Well, yes, I was a huge fan of the original Star Wars before it was called A New Hope, and I went to see that about 5, 6, 7 times in the cinema. Empire, I think I saw the cruise screening and then saw it a couple of times afterwards. But by the time Jedi was on, I was like working, and I had a young family, so I didn't get to see it again in the cinema for many, many, many years. But yeah, so, but of course, Blu-rays and everything, you get to see it.
Well, now plus Disney Plus, first time ever, we've got the entire Skywalker saga on Disney Plus. So, all right, let's do another Q&A here. This is for any cast member, and it's from Peter. Has any cast member made any appearances in the new Star Wars movies? Corey, we'll start with you.
That's a short answer for me. No.
No, okay. Dave,
I wish.
Not for me either, no.
Julius, how about you?
No.
All right, and Deep, how about you?
No.
No? Okay, that was a quick one. Let's take another one here. Hold on one second. This is actually for Dave and Deep together, so let me do a screen share after I read it. This is from Kyle. What do you love most about Yoda? Dave and Deep. Hold on, share. Okay, Dave and Deep, you're both on there. Go ahead, Deep.
Well, I think the voice, what Frank Oz did, his voice, I loved his voice.
Okay, excellent. And let me stop the screen share and we'll go back to Dave. Dave, go ahead.
Yes, I mean, I think Frank's voice for Yoda he's such a great actor. I mean, I'm not sure if everyone knows, but he wasn't originally planned to do Yoda's voice. So he just did a guide voice on set, as puppeteers often do. And then George, I think, tried having him redubbed by about 15 different voice actors. And nobody seemed to get it right. So they went back to Frank and said, can you sound a little less Sesame Street and make Yoda sound more sort of Star Wars world? So he did. He worked on his character voice, and is obviously one of Frank's vocal ranges, and it is in the Grover and that kind of voice. But it's Frank's acting ability in his voice was so strong, which is why his puppeteering was so strong, because not only is he a great technical puppeteer, but the voice gives a lot of the acting cues that sometimes the puppets don't have. So yeah, for me, it was just wonderful that he was a puppet.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing. Corey, here's a question for you. This is from Alan. What are your influences in your music?
Oh my goodness. Well, when I originally started in music, I had so many influences, but my grandmother always had this baby grand piano that she somehow got into New York City apartments, because that's where we all grew up. I don't know how she got it in there, but maybe they probably disassembled it to get it in there, but it took up a great deal of our living room. So my grandmother was definitely a musical influence. I mean, she listened to everything from classical to opera to, contemporary, music. But I'd say my earliest influence was probably, I would say, Jimi Hendrix. And then, I started playing guitar because of Jimi Hendrix. And, I really quickly realized that I couldn't be like Jimi Hendrix overnight, which I thought, oh, if I get a guitar and pick it up, it'll sound just like Jimi Hendrix. Wrong. But so my grandmother ordered me a guitar out of a catalog. It wasn't a very good electric guitar, but nonetheless, it had a Starburst paint job on it. And I thought it was the best thing since sliced bread, But So yeah, I mean, I was listening to a lot of Jimi Hendrix, and then and James Brown. I also love James Brown. My mother listened to a lot of Motown, so I was exposed to all the Motown stuff. I think the first record I owned was probably a Jackson 5 record, but and it's because Michael Jackson was it, you know, and people thought we looked a lot alike because I had big hair, you know, like he did, everything. But yeah, it was early Jimmy, and then Sly and the Family Stone. My father gave me the Sly and the Family Stone album called Stan, and I remember him, and I remember hearing that, you know, and it was so different than everything else. I thought something was wrong with the record, you know. It's like, you know, it's all this stuff. I was like, what in the world? You need to take this record back. What's wrong with it? You know, he said, Corey, that's the way it's supposed to sound. So yeah, Sly was a huge influence. He was a great songwriter and just an innovator. You know, he took what James Brown did. And I really got into funk heavily in the 70s, which it ended up being George Clinton, Parliament Funkadelic, and those guys. So those were some of the big influences on me. Because I'm kind of a music kid of the 70s, so I was really into a lot of that heavy duty funk stuff. And you know, kind of James Brown sort of created it. Sly took it to another level, and then Parliament Funkadelic took it someplace really freaky that, you know, no one ever heard anything like that before. So it was just all these things from the ground up. All these things were happening from the ground up back in those days that now people listen to it and go, yeah, it's cool, it's funky. But I mean, you know, people do like what we do with funk now is we're trying to take it to make a more modern version of it, as opposed to what everybody does now, which is they sort of keep it stuck in the 70s, sort of 70s vibe, 70s sound thing, because they're trying to stay true to the roots of funk music. But what was cool about funk was it was very innovative at the time. It wasn't anything that anybody had ever heard. It was a rhythmic attitude, and that rhythmic attitude pretty much can fit into all styles of music, even classical, country, whatever. So yeah, funk musicians were some of my biggest influences for sure.
Perfect. Thank you, Corey. So going back to the Q&As, we have just a couple comments for Dave. When you showed your trailer, they said that it was, they really liked it and they can't wait to see the movie. And then I think the timestamp on here was when we brought Yoda out, and they said, this is one of the coolest things I've seen. So those messages were from Patrick and Gary. So guys, thanks for that.
Thank you. Yeah, great.
And let's see, this is from Peter. This is for everyone. So I will start with Deep after I answer the question. Just give me a second to switch over my screen. This is from Peter. Do you think Star Wars would still be talked about today? And I'm assuming that he's referring to the classic originals. So let me switch my screen. And Deep, you are on.
Yeah, but then again, the originals are the best, in my opinion. You know, there's nothing to beat them. That's my opinion. From the originals, big fan. Don't get me wrong, all Star Wars movies are great. All of them are. But since he asked the question, I think the originals, in my opinion.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. Let me go back to the guys. Okay, Corey, how about you?
Can you repeat that again?
I'm assuming the question was based on the original trilogies, but do you still think people will be talking about it today and for years to come, the originals?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, there's something real special about those movies. I mean, nothing like, they were innovating the whole process when they were doing the movies. So, no one had ever seen anything like most of that stuff before. It had never been done that way. It had never been seen. So I think they'll always be special for that reason. I mean, now we've seen everything, so we're sort of desensitized to everything that sort of happens in movies now. I mean, they have to really blow our socks off to knock our socks off to for us to be wowed now. But, this stuff was really, really ahead of its time. So I think, yeah, it'll always be special for that reason, for sure. The original.
Julius, how about you?
Yeah, I think the first three will always be talked about because, as Corey said, there's a lot of new technology involved in it. It was ahead of its time in a lot of respects. And I think the first three had stars in them. The way I see Hollywood now, you have personalities, but you don't have a lot of stars. And in the first three, you wanted to see the first three. I see the advertisers, they put the trailers up on the new ones, and it's like, it's a whole hum. And the thing is like people talk about chasing a high. I think they go there hoping to look to find some of the magic from the first three, and it's okay, but it's nothing that knocks your socks off. So you know, I'm yet to even when I talk to real diehard Star Wars fans, they seem to give the movies a pass. It's okay, but it's not. It doesn't have the magic of the first three. They had stars. I mean, now we got personalities. That's my take on it.
Yeah, a fan, Craig, just chimed in, Julius, and said you're making a very good point. Dave, how about you?
Well, interestingly, after we'd finished Jedi and everything, it did go on, things were on video, but I don't think George released Star Wars on video for ages. So for a number of years, there was no Star Wars out there. I mean, it was not the way it was being seen, certainly in the UK. And I remember doing a TV show in the mid-90s, and my kids thinking I was famous because I was doing a puppet on that show. And I said, well, what about Star Wars? And they go, Star Wars? It's like it was nothing to them. The fact that George then went and re-released them and then started making the new trilogies, I think was the reason that the franchise has stayed in people's minds. I think it's a very clever business approach, but I, like everyone else, agree that the first trilogy have the most soul, I would say.
I concur with all of you, absolutely. Dave, Dan, another fan here, he wants you to know that he's going to email me his home address, and we're going to mail Yoda to him. So he'll be looking for him in the mail.
Very good. Okay, yep.
Hey, wait a minute. I want Yoda.
There's no such thing as mailing. No, he has a limo to go everywhere he wants to go.
I'm going to get his address, and I'm going to break into his house and steal it.
So here's a good question, and it's open to everyone. And even though that this event is not about me, I actually might share an answer on this as well, since it says it's open to anyone. This is from Vinny. Vinny wants to know, and I'm going to go back and start with Deep and a screen share, and then we'll come back. So here is the question, and then let me go live. Vinny wants to know, does any of the guests have a funny story on set or behind the scenes with any of the stars? Harrison, Carrie, Mark. And let me go live with Deep. Hold on. Screen share. All right, Deep. Do you have any funny stories with the main cast?
I don't think so. I have. I mean, they're all, you know. I don't. I don't. No.
Okay. Well, that was very unexciting, Deep. Thanks. No, you can't. Not everybody can have a story. Hang tight with us.
I'm surprised because Deep's a very funny guy, and he's a really fun dude, you know.
All right, go ahead, Corey. How about you? You've got a funny story, maybe?
Well, I already told mine.
Oh yeah, about the robe and the okay.
Yeah, that was the best one I have, really.
You might not have met it. How about Dave or Julius with any private one-on-ones with the main cast? Anything funny or interesting?
Well, yeah, I guess when I was inside Jabba, just working generally, we've got these TV monitors, and what we're seeing is a camera way up in the lighting rig. So we've got very little detail. And the director said, "Oh, Jabba, would you put your right hand on Carrie's shoulder?" And so I said, "Yeah, sure." So I sort of looking on the monitor, yeah, there's a shoulder. And I hear from Carrie, "Jabba, that's not my shoulder." I couldn't feel anything. thing. I got this big rubber glove with mechanical extensions on. Oh, okay. So that was a little bit embarrassing, but yeah, good fun.
Oh wait! I do have something I want to share.
Absolutely, Corey, go for it.
When we first came, right, and they started giving out all these T-shirts and hats that said Blue Harvest on them, and I was like, "What in the heck is Blue Harvest?" Like, I thought we would come here to do Star Wars: Return of the Jedi. Like, why? What is all this Blue Harvest stuff? And they were like, "Well, Corey, we don't really want people to know that we're shooting Star Wars: Return of the Jedi, so." It's blue. We're calling it Blue Harvest. So was it a science fiction movie? What is it? You know. So I said, you know, this is going to be good. We're going to see how long we can cover this up. So we're all, you know, we all go out to dinner one night. You know, we're in Yuma, Arizona, which is at that time nothing in Yuma, Arizona. Maybe a couple of a pizza joint, an Italian restaurant, something. You know. So we're all out to this Italian restaurant. Carrie's there, my father's there, Harrison's there. Everybody's there, and I'm thinking, you know, how long is it going to take before people figure out what we're doing, that it's not Blue Harvest? I mean, you know, what are the odds of all of them sitting down in the same restaurant having a meal together, you know, if they're not doing a Star Wars movie? So the next day, there was a jet formation that flew over the set. I think there was a base there, and they had some of those military personnel were in the restaurant, and so they buzzed over the set the next day in these jets. And so, well, that's the end of Blue Harvest. So
that's awesome. Julius, how about you?
Well, when they hired me to do Star Wars, Corey's right. They called me and said they wanted me to go to Yuma, Arizona to do a movie called Blue Harvest. I worked on a lot of movies, so Blue Harvest was just another movie. So they took me to the set, and at the time, they had a cocktail party so everybody can kind of get to know each other. It's never happened on any set I'd ever been on. So I'm standing there with a couple other stuntmen. I see Harrison Ford walk by. I see Billy D. Williams. I said, Billy D. Williams. I said, what is he doing here, you know? Because he's, you know, it's African-American. He's like a huge star. And then I see Carrie Fisher. I said, somebody's copying the Star Wars theme, you know, Mark Hamill. And as it turned out, you know, I mean, but that was top secret. It was really, really, you couldn't even say Star Wars. Corey's right about the pictures. It was, I mean, it took me a couple days to really realize that it was Star Wars and not Star Wars. And I thought it was really funny how they kept it such a secret for such a long time, you know. But it's kind of funny to me now, looking back.
That's fantastic. Very cool. Well, here, I'll share my little story. I wasn't in any of the movies. This has to do with repping people. And it's another Carrie Fisher story, obviously, because she's the only one that's as hilarious as anyone else. We were doing a show in London, and it was her first trip to London. And so again, this is right when she started doing signings. And the particular event that we were doing was held in a mall because there was a lot of space. And Carrie didn't realize how many fans there were in line and how long it was going to take. So she was exhausted halfway through the day, and she kept hitting my arm, asking me if she could take a break. And, you know, we were scheduled for a break at a certain time. And I said, Carrie, we can't take a break. It's just da-da-da-da-da. And she's like, well, let's go to the green room. And I'm like, well, the green room, they have to drive us to. And she's like, oh, forget it. She goes, I'm exhausted. She goes, I want to take a nap. She goes, let's find a bed. And I'm like, Carrie, where are you going to find a bed? And she goes, aren't we in a mall? And I went, yeah, but I don't know where the mattress department is or anything like that. She goes, I don't care. She goes, I'm going to go find one. So she got up, grabbed my hand, dragged me with her. We had 5 security guards surrounding us, drag us through the mall. And sure enough, Carrie found the mattress department in the mall. She said, see, I told you we'd find it. She grabbed me, threw me on the bed, threw herself on top of me, laid her head on my shoulder, and fell asleep for like 15, 20 minutes. So, and we had like, the security guards were surrounding the bed and there were fans trying to take pictures. I've told this story before, and I've asked anyone who has a picture of this, please, I would like to have a copy.
Come forward.
But I do have the rare opportunity to say that I actually did sleep with Princess Leia, which is every guy my age's wet dream. So there you go. Let's see. We have another question here for Dave. This is from Kat. What puppets did you perform in Dark Crystal?
Dark Crystal, I started off as a puppet maker, worked to create the Skeksis under supervision of Lyle Conway, Skeksis, Augur, and the Skeks. And then reprising the sort of roles that I did with Frank, I did cable controls on the Chamberlain, on Augur, and then I was chief puppeteer for the Skeks. So I also did Podlings, I did some marionette work. But for Dark Crystal, a lot of my responsibilities was on the build side of it, the actual puppet making side that I worked alongside Lyle Conway for. So, but amazing opportunity to be a part of that very first original full animatronic movie. So,
excellent, thank you, Dave. So let's see, Corey. This is from Kyle. What is your favorite type of music and your favorite instrument to play?
That's an easy one. Funk.
Yeah. Funk and bass.
Funk and bass. Yeah, I mean, I can play keys a little, you know, a little bit of guitar, a little drums. You know, I'm really a frustrated drummer, so I do really well programming drums. But bass, you know, has been my main focus, I guess. You know, it's and then you go from a 5-string to 4-string bass. So I play both. But I've gone back to playing a 4-string bass again because I thought, you know, I'd really like to just focus on, you know, on my playing and not, you know, anything else, you know. So I've really been, you know, I've been playing bass, God, you know, for 20 something years. I mean, when I put it down for a while, picked it back up again. You know, so I'm always looking to improve my techniques on bass and come up with new things or fun things to try. You know, I don't play other people's songs. The whole thrill of playing is all about creating music for me. It always has been that way. So I always choose to create my own songs. And I'm not very good at practicing, like, you know, when you're supposed to sit and do scales and things, I just get bored. It's just like, I want to come up with something funky, something fun to play. And sometimes it's hard for me to execute it. And I think, okay, I can work on this technique and really get it down. So yeah, I mean, definitely funk, definitely bass for sure. And I'm just I love rhythm sections. You know, I'll work on a piece of music, I'll send it to my father and he'll go, well, when are you gonna do some singing? When are you gonna do some melodies? I'm like, well, Dad, you know, I can do that stuff, but that's not what's fun for me. It's not what I really enjoy. And I'd like to find somebody to do that stuff on top, you know, of what we do, which would be really cool. I'm always searching for new musicians to play with. So.
And Corey, someone else asked, what's on your t-shirt?
Oh, 3D Nucleus, the name of our project. So it's actually a logo that a friend of mine who's a cartoonist designed, Jorge Beza. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to kind of incorporate the Star Wars universe a little bit into what I was doing musically. So I said, wouldn't it be cool, because I doubled my dad and I wore the Lando skiff guard outfit. So wouldn't it be cool if I was wearing the Lando skiff guard outfit in a caricature of myself? And then I said, okay, headphones would be cool, but wouldn't it be cool if the headphones were similar to the helmet that he wore with the skiff guard outfit? So that's how we came up with that whole thing. And it's called the 3D Nucleus Project, which 3 is for the rhythm section. D is my middle name. The nucleus is the rhythm of the music is the nucleus. And it's a project. It's not really a band. People are always asking us, where do you guys play? Can I come see? That's difficult. There's over like 30 artists worldwide that collaborate in this project. So we share music with each other. We share ideas. You know, I recently got Madonna's guitar player, Monty Pittman, joined us, and he started doing some funk with us. So we have like all sorts of musicians, and it keeps growing. It's sort of like a funk movement. So that's basically what 3D Nucleus is. Yeah. So.
All right. Our next question. I'm actually going to make it a 2-parter for everyone so that I can stay on deep the screen share long enough for him to answer. So it's one of them is from Spencer and one of them is from Kat. And this is for all panelists. Spencer wants to know, how did the Star Wars universe change your life because you were part of it? And Kat wants to know, did anyone steal anything from set, from any movie? We'll say any movie. So let me go to screen share and bring Deep on to answer those two questions. Hold on. All right, here we go, Deep, you're up.
Well, Star Wars is such a great franchise. Has it changed? Of course it has. It has changed my life to some extent because I was part of it. And it's a great franchise. It's one of the greatest franchises, money-making machine, not for Disney especially. And wish I was part of the franchise more, but then again, to do second and third one, that's good enough for me. Regarding stealing anything from the set, I didn't steal anything, but I was given a suit, a tie, a shirt when I did Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, because they made a three-piece suit for me. And Tim said to me, "This is a great suit. Why don't you take it with you?" I said, "I'd rather have an Oompa Loompa suit." He said, "No, you can't have an Oompa Loompa suit. The reason you can't have an Oompa Loompa suit because Warner Brothers won't let that go because they're all numbered. And you only can have a three-piece suit." Even Richard Zanuck, God bless his soul. And he said to me, "It's made for you, you know?" And he said, "Tell the wardrobe you want to take the suit home, the shoes, the whole thing." So next week he comes back, he said to me, "Did you get your suit?" I said, "No, I didn't." This is Richard Zanuck asking me. And he said to me, "Let me take care of it." He picks up a phone, within an hour the suit was there.
Wow, very cool.
What color was the suit, Deep? What color was that suit?
Not a steal, but it was given to me.
Corey wants to know what color was the suit, Deep.
The suit was gray suit. It's a three-piece suit. I think I've got it in my wardrobe. I mean, if I've got time, I'll show it to you guys. When you ask the questions, I'll bring it out with me. I'll bring it out from my wardrobe.
Okay, let's do that. I'm going to let you go grab it while you guys answer that other question. All right, so Corey, you're up.
What was the question again?
There were two parts. How did being in Star Wars change your life?
Oh, okay.
And did you appropriate anything from any set that you've been on?
Well, let's see. From the set, let's see. I did actually. I had the Lectroid head from Buckaroo Banzai. I wish I had gotten something from Star Wars, but I didn't. But they actually gave me my head from Buckaroo Banzai, because how they create the head is they make a mold of your actual head, and then they build these pieces of the way so that the mask fits you like a glove. And so you go in and you've got 8 hours of makeup where they're putting all these little pieces of rubber onto your face so that when you speak, your face moves like a real face. It doesn't look like a mask. So it actually looks like an alien. So it was the same studio where they did Planet of the Apes and I think Berman, is that the name of it? I think Dave, Dave may know, but.
Yeah, it probably sounds right, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, they casted my head and then they made a Lectroid head out of from my head. And then when we were done with the shooting, they said, "Do you want to keep the Lectroid head?" I said, "Yeah, I'd love to." So I did, and I kept it for as long as I could, but that latex breaks down over time and it started to disintegrate, and I just don't have it anymore. But yeah, I would, and as far as Star Wars, I would never have imagined what kind of effect Star Wars would have had on my life. Like it's part of our family legacy now. I mean, I never would have imagined that would happen. When I first saw the first movie, I loved it. I've always been a science fiction fan. I was a Star Trek fan before Star Wars came along. So I was really into that kind of stuff anyway to begin with. So my father came and told me he was going to be in the movie. I thought he was lying. I was like, "What are you talking about? What are you going to do in a Star Wars movie?" And his role is fantastic. It's iconic. there's nothing like it. And it's a part of our family legacy in ways that I never could ever have imagined. When Derek asked me to start doing conventions, I guess 30 years after the fact, it was 2 weeks of my life that, you know, this shooting happened. So I never thought much of it. It's just like Julius said, you know, you work on so many films that, you know, it's just another film. You know, you do a film and then you're on to the next film. So it just, you know, I had some personal pictures around and Derek saw them, and one thing led to another. And then when I started getting out with him and doing cons, I realized how significant it really was to people. Like I had never realized really just how significant and how many generations it spans is incredible to me. So yeah, that's why it's so special, I guess, to me.
Awesome. Julius, how about you?
Well, Star Wars it changed my life in that I got to meet, I mean, I've done a lot of films, as I've stated earlier, but I got to meet one of the most genuine, impressive human beings I've ever met, and that's Billy D. While working on the set, I spent time with him, which I never had done before. But then he never really wanted to spend time with any actors. Corey was there. We became friends. He was larger than life, still is, a genuine person. And as a stuntman, you want an actor that you can double because that enhances your career, you make more money and all that kind of stuff. But he actually became a friend. And he said that, hey, I'm gonna use you on my next film. And you say, yeah, right, he's gonna use me on the next film. Next thing I know, I was hanging out at his house with Corey and became like a family member, you know? And it wasn't anything to do with Hollywood other than the fact that he was a wonderful man. He was just, had a lot of wisdom, a lot of knowledge, and he paid his dues. He used to do voiceovers. He was an actor that deserved it. He worked hard for it. He covered all the bases. And when you were around him, you really felt like you're around what Hollywood was all about. You know, what it was, you know, Fred Astaire, Paul Newman. I worked with all those guys. He's one of them. He's royalty. He's Hollywood royalty. And I think I take that from Star Wars. When I think of Star Wars, I think of Billy D. and Corey when we all met. You know, it was really the heat of the summer. It was a lot of idle time, a lot of downtime where I listened to Corey play his bass and Billy tell stories. And at that point, I was going through a really kind of down point in my life. And he told me, he said, you know, you're a really good guy. And that meant a lot to me. And he was genuine when he said it. So that was, you know, high. And plus we're doing these signings. I bet anyone on this panel, if someone had told you that you would be going to conventions, signing autographs, being a client of Derek's, all of this, never thought any of this stuff was going to happen. Am I right? I mean, nobody thought that any of this was going to happen. We thought that was the end. You know, usually you work a show and that's the end. You get a residual or two, but next thing you're going to England, you're going to different conventions all over, and I saw actors sign their autograph, and now I'm getting paid to sign autographs. I mean, it's just like a dream. Star Wars is like the gift that keeps on giving. And as far as anything I took from the set, no, I didn't do that because, you know, stuntmen are, if you do something like that, you never work anymore because you kind of know as a thief, you know. So we wear wardrobe, we get memorabilia that we could take and have, but we never do anything like that. We're very respectful of what's on the set. If they say we can have it, fine. Even taking pictures, you know, we have to be careful with that kind of stuff. But Star Wars is something that everybody on this panel has benefited from, including yourself, Derek. You know, it was just something that nobody ever imagined. The afterlife of it is just tremendous. So that's my experience.
Yeah, Julius is like family. I mean, I love him. I love all you guys, but we're all, you know, the Star Wars is like a common thread that just runs through all of us and it's connected us in some way. And but we've all become close, and it's just like one big family. And Julius and I have been in contact with each other ever since Return of the Jedi. I mean, we've been friends and you know, brothers, and had vacations together and partied together and had fun together. I mean, so it's just you know, and everything. I've got to hang out with Dave a few times. Deep is a blast, you know, and Derek is crazy, you know. I love him too.
But when Billy walks in the room, we're all cool with it. You know, you're around the star. You know what I mean? He's a real star. And I've been around a lot of them, but every time I see him, you know, you just want to almost bow. You know what I mean? He's just Hollywood royalty, and I'm glad that this happened.
Derek.
But you know, when you're around them, it just reminds you how privileged you are to be around someone that's paid his dues and so respected in Hollywood. You know, you feel like part of a icon. You know, just you walk in that energy, and he stops. Everybody listens to his stories, and he tells good stories, and he's appreciative. So that's the big highest point in my career, meeting Billy D.
That is awesome. Dave, how about you?
Well, Star Wars literally changed my life because it was my very first feature film that I ever worked on. So I got to become Yoda. I got to then go and work on Dark Crystal with Frank and with Jim Henson, then back onto Jedi. So and with Jabba. So I mean, it literally completely changed the path of my life. I was wanting to do some puppets. I wanted to get into that kind of world, but it's like some friends of mine said, "Oh, you worked on Empire Strikes Back. Now, isn't that the sequel to the biggest film in history, which Star Wars at the time?" And I said, "Yeah, well, it's going to be downhill from now on, surely." So, but not at all. It's been an amazing ride, and as everyone said, it's staggering that it's still as popular today. As far as acquiring things from projects, typically out of the trash, interestingly enough, there's so much that's discarded. For Yoda, the figure behind Derek, that was, they had to do so many skins to get it perfect, so many foam latex skins. And so at the end of the day, I think myself and some of the other guys went away with the skin rather than just literally being thrown away and trashed. So I was the only person, I think, who actually remolded it and saved it, because just as Carrie said with his makeup, it crumbles away after a few years. So I preserved mine, and again, being able to on certain projects, I would ask, can I make a duplicate of this for my private collection? And people said, yeah, okay. So I'd take another cast out of the mold, and some of the painters would paint it up for me. So I've got a few bits and pieces. But I'd always make sure that I did it with the blessing of production. So.
Excellent. So guys, we're getting close to the end. Before I switch back over to Deep, who I believe has his suit ready, I wanted to remind everybody and let the fans know who ordered it. Part of InHouse-CON's event was having the ability to purchase an autograph from any of our guest speakers. And what's going to be happening is after our panel today, on Monday, I'm going to prepare a package to mail to each of the guests with instructions on what to sign, and then they'll be mailing them back to Cool Waters, and then we will be getting them out. And all the shipping is included. There's no additional fee for that. And we actually left the store for this weekend active on InHouse-CON.com, so that any of you who may not have purchased an autograph can still do that, or perhaps some of you who only bought one, and now that you've met the guys and are madly in love with them all because they're amazing, might want to add an autograph to your collection. You can still do that. So when we're done with the panel today, you can go to InHouse-CON.com and place your order. I'm going to switch to my live screen before we go to Deep, and you guys will be able to see really quickly. I'll leave it up here for a moment, the images that are available. So from Dave, I chose a Dark Crystal image, a Jabba image, a Yoda image, and a Labyrinth image. For Julius, we have a Skiffmaster image, a Stormtrooper image, and a Biker Scout image. For Corey, we have Klaatu versus Luke, behind the scenes with the gun on the sail barge, and then Klaatu himself. And then for Deep, we do have a behind the scenes Yoda image. We have a Keesner image from Star Trek, and we do have Droopy McCool. So any of the fans can go and choose those. We send you the order form now that you know what there's available. So now I'm going to switch over to FaceTime again with Deep. Hi, Deep. Do you have your suit ready to share? Show and tell?
There you go.
That's right.
Beautiful.
Here's another one here. Watch. This is the one they gave me this to.
Oh, that's sharp.
So there it is. I didn't steal it. They gave it to me.
That's awesome. That's awesome, Deep. Cool. So before, what I'm going to do is I'm actually, because we're getting towards the end, I'm going to let Deep say his goodbyes now so that I don't have to switch back again to him and I can let him go. So Deep, you can say your goodbyes now and then you can log off of FaceTime. So go ahead.
Hi, guys. My apologies. I couldn't see you guys. And I share everything, but I'm sure you have seen me. But I want to thank each and every one of you for participating in this amazing event, the first and many, many more to come. Thank you, everyone, each and every one of you, from bottom of my heart. I think the force is with you guys.
Thank you so much, Deep. It was great having you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Cheers, Deep. Okay, bye-bye now.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go back over to here. And I do have a little ending credits. It's 15 seconds long. So when we're ready to wrap up, please don't do like you do when you go to the movie theater and get up and leave. I ask everybody to watch the credits. It's 15 seconds. It won't kill you. So I have to put out my special thanks. First of all, I have to thank all of my friends and family, all of the fans that are out there that have supported InHouse-CON and joined up. I thank you so much for doing that. Cool Waters is a small mom and pop business. We are family owned and operated. According to the man in the White House and according to all of our politicians, my business is the backbone of America. We are a small business. That's what we are. And we were hit incredibly hard by COVID-19. We actually had a couple of notices about COVID-19, and so I'm taking the moment to answer that. COVID-19 greatly affects companies like mine, where we rely on public events. So, you know, unfortunately, Cool Waters is not like, you know, a big band like, you know, Van Halen or Elton John that have major concerts, and we don't get residuals from Star Wars and the clients that we rep. So we were hit very hard, and all of your support is deeply appreciated. So thank you for supporting a small business like mine. And I want to thank Corey and Julius and Dave, and I'll thank Deep again in an email for agreeing to be part of this event and for agreeing to be on the first one, because this was basically a test run for the following weekends to come. I want to remind everyone that we still have tickets available for Star Trek Discovery, for Ghostbusters, for Star Wars Empire versus the Rebels, and Superman's Good versus Evil. It's every Saturday in May, starting at 12 noon. We have private video chats that you can purchase to talk one-on-one by yourself with a celebrity for 5 minutes. We have group chats where 10 people can chat with all 5 people by themselves. And again, that's a video chat, not the Q&A that we've been doing during the live panel. Those are video chats that you can do one-on-one. Today, there are no more orders for chats with any of our guests today, even though they are still active on the website. Do not order a video chat from Dave, Deep, Corey, or Julius, because it's done. They're doing those after today's panel. So with all of that being said, I have to thank also, my tech guy prepped a script for me here. I have to do a special shout out to my friends at Star Wars Autograph News. That's Frank D. Rich, and also Star Wars Autograph Universe. That's Andy, Tom, and Steve. And also Talking Bay 94, that's Brandon. These platforms allowed me to come on to promote the event, and I want to give a shout out to them. So all of the fans who don't know about them, please check out their Facebook sites. They're great collector communities for the autograph world, and all the fans chit chat with each other. So it's really cool. So I'm gonna allow each of our guests now to say their goodbyes, and then I'm gonna switch to my live screen share so you can see the ending credits. And when the ending credits are done, the meeting will end and everything will be done. So thank you, everyone. Corey, we're gonna start with your goodbyes.
Well, first I want to thank you, Derek, for the invitation, and had a blast. This was fun. Looking forward to do it again sometime. And thank you, everybody, for coming out and hanging out with us today, and your interest in what it is we're doing in this little universe. And looking forward to seeing you all out there. You, Derek, you, Dave, and Julius. I'll see you guys soon. May the funk be with you all.
And you.
Julius, please.
Yeah, I want to thank you, Derek, for bringing me on. Let me be a part of this panel. And I want to thank the fans that keep Star Wars relevant. And it's really been a pleasure spending time and sharing some of my experiences working on Star Wars and also in the movie industry. I take none of this for granted, Derek. Every time you reach out and give me opportunity to meet people and to appear before my fans, I really appreciate that. So it's been nice, been fun, and I'm sure we'll be talking.
Thank you. Dave, how about you?
Again, Derek, thank you. This is great fun. It's comfortable in my own home, and I'm set up in my garage where I made my film. So I've been sat here the last 11 years. So it's very comfortable. It's great. So thank you. Thank you for everyone who's been tuning in, and may the 2nd be with you. That's right, isn't it?
May the 4th is coming. So I'm about to switch over my screen. One last thank you has to go out to my technical supervisor, Tyler, and my webmaster, Sarah. This event would not have been possible without their tireless efforts. I've been driving them crazy for a month preparing for this and couldn't do it without them. So thanks, guys. All right, we're gonna roll the ending credits. Here we go. I hope. That's it, guys. See you all later.
Okay, thank you.
Great seeing you guys. Hope you see you soon.